So this lecture is going to focus on active transport, in particular endo and exocytosis. So we also call endo and exocytosis bulk transport. So we're talking about anything that uses energy. So you're going to see on that left-hand side the key concept, that you're going to see that concept probably written on a number of these slides. So the cells use energy to transport materials that cannot go diffuse, either facilitated or otherwise, through a membrane. So you can see there you've got a higher concentration on the inside of the cell, right? So you're going to want to, in this case, obviously you think those molecules would want to diffuse outside. Well, we want to keep those molecules inside, so that requires energy. So you can see the little energy is helping them diffuse or move through the cell membrane into the cell. So active transport, here's the key concept I want you to know. It uses something called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, my bad. And it requires energy from the cell that enables the substance to move across the gradient. So normally when we talk about gradients, it goes, there's a high to low, there's a lot to a little. Well, this is active, so it's going to go from a little to a lot, but it requires energy. So what you have is like protein pumps, for example, and there's an example of one right there. When we did our cell membranes, we talked about peripheral proteins and integral proteins, right? So these would be integral proteins, proteins that span the width of the cell membrane, and their job is to kind of gather molecules on the outside of the cell or inside, vice versa, and move them either in or out, wherever that carrier or that transport protein was designed to do. That is their job. So they use this to maintain homeostasis, right? There are times where molecules need to get either inside or out of the cell for that cell to live and to thrive and to multiply. And you can't just, and like I said, if they can't get across, then that cell could not do its function. So it needs energy. Now, obviously, passive transport is preferred because it doesn't require energy, and that energy that would be spent on transport could be used on other things, division, DNA replication, all that good stuff, protein production. So in this case, the cell doesn't necessarily want to use energy to move molecules, but it will if it needs to. So endocytosis. So when we talk about endo and exo, we're talking about moving either large molecules or large amounts, okay? So you can use this in, for example, when you guys did your cell diagrams, you saw vesicles, right? That's what the vesicles are for. They're these little tiny circles that are sitting in the cytoplasm, and their job is either to engulf, take in material, or spit out material. So let's talk about endocytosis. Think of in. Endocytosis is the process of taking material into the cell, okay? Taking large amounts of substances into the cell. And one particular type is that phagocytosis, which we're going to talk about, or we did talk about in class, and we will continue to talk about. So there you have your bacteria model, and you can see the little yellow bacteria. You have essentially a white blood cell, okay, like Osmosis Jones, and you see the little yellow bacteria, and that bacteria could cause illness and disease and all that stuff. So it's trying to engulf it. It's trying to keep it away from the other parts of the body. And what it's doing is it's kind of sucking in huge amounts of bacteria all at once, okay? So obviously that makes sense. That requires energy, or hopefully sense. Here's a little simpler diagram of the endocytosis. So what happens is you have your large molecule, say it's that bacteria, that harmful bacteria. The membrane kind of almost like gathers around it, kind of like it's pinching it. It separates, it forms its own membrane, and then it breaks it down. Then, so you can see why that circle in the second square looks kind of like a vesicle, right? It's surrounding that harmful substance, and then in number 3, it's breaking it down. And then the lysosomes come, eat it up, spit it out. Exo. So endo goes in, exo goes out. So again, what you're doing is you're spitting a large amount of substance, or a large substance that's large in size. You're expelling it from out of the cell, okay? Exocytosis, getting rid of. And we see lysosomes do that. You can see down in the right-hand corner. There's the lysosomes or I should say lysosomes are in that picture there in the upper left corner. They digest the materials, and then they send those materials to the outside, and that is happening in the lower right-hand corner. And that's it, exocytosis. You've got that lysosome there, boom, 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 connects with the plasma membrane, spits it out. That's it, and all of that requires energy.